Tractate Sanhedrin, page 45. Today we're going to speak about a lot of very serious, sensitive subjects, such as ethics and medicine. And you see all the consequences of certain decisions and halachic implications. Case number one. A doctor was asked to prescribe a certain medicine that expedites indirectly the demise of a patient. What exactly Jewish law ascribed to that? Is that permissible? One side, that's the demand of the patient's or patient's family, and that's basically reduce in a way the excruciating pain of the patients. On the other hand, Jewish law not allow by any means to expedite the demise of a person. Another subject is the idea that doctors with many years experiences, usually, I'm talking about medical doctors obviously, they bring their students, those who does residency and other students come together, especially in the hospitals, and they visit patients and writing a report or learning toward experiences. The question is not so much legal but more halachic ethical issue. Some of the patients do not consent to share either the situation or the exposure of their naked physical body to other people rather than their direct doctors. So the question is, by halakha, by Jewish law, does the doctor needs to get a consent from his or her patients for having students exposed to those private or personal things. Another painful subject, and that's the responsa. We talk about many times the responsa during the Shoah, during the Holocaust, World War II, is one of the hardest Jewish responsa, meaning we have rabbis that living through this hardest of the hardest time, which is the halachic rabbis that rules during the Shoah, during the Holocaust, and some of the responsa are very hard to read, which is halachic questions that people ask those rabbis, and the decisions, and obviously is not just final decisions, is all the sources which sometimes take many hours to read, how they come to such conclusion. So here is the case scenario. I know it's painful, I know it's graphic, but we have a lot of derivative from our daf. The Nazi came in to one of those Auschwitz camps, and I don't know if I don't remember if it's described as for fun or for joking or other reason. They want to kill someone, and everyone gets excited and start crying. And when the Nazis saw it, he asked, "Are you guys willing to sacrifice something in order for me not to kill that person?" Now listen carefully. Their condition was, okay, I want to kill Abraham. Yitzchak, are you willing to sacrifice your fingers? I cut some of your fingers in order to save Abraham's life. Yaakov, are you willing me to take away your ear? So if I take away your ear, I basically promise not to kill Abraham. Is that permissible in halakha to take away part of your physical body with all the consequences, even it's not killing you but cause you agony for the rest of your life, in order to save life of someone else? So as you see, my dear friends, today it's not really in a way a pleasure, but it's unavoidable part of our lives as human, as part of human race, and as Jews. So we're going to deal with that directly and indirectly, and as we said, we're going to study now Daf, page 45. We start with 44b, 15 lines from the bottom of the page. The Mishnah tells us, "Im eno yodea litvadot," someone who deserves skila. In the biblical term, there are 4 different types of death, and obviously there is such a level of execution that deserve it. So the skila, meaning biblical term of stoning, we ask the person, as we're doing in the day of Oz in Yom Kippur, atonement to confess. So we said if someone deserves such a punishment before he being executed by stoning, he needs to do a vidui, he needs to express his word of confession. So the Mishnah teaches us that if he cannot express it in words, so you see here disputation. One said, hold that Rabbi Yehuda, he says that my death, tehem mitati kaparati, al kol avonotai, that my death will be an atone for all my sins. And one of the things is the disputation that if he feels that he's not deserved this punishment for this blame, for this verdict. So one view of the Rabbi Yehuda said, guess what? He can spell it out that it will be a confession, atonement for all my sins, excluding the one that you're about to execute me. The rabbis oppose it. The rabbi said, you know what you're doing? You're mocking the court, you're mocking the system, you're mocking the rabbis by implying that the judges judge you unrighteously or unrightly by saying in your confession that you confess as for all your sin, excluding the one that you get a verdict of execution. So therefore, the rabbis oppose this type of confession, kedei lenakot atzman, that the fear is that he basically, even his death, he like giving them back, paying back, or whatever you call it, in order to dirt those judges. So they said, v'inaku atzman. What's the problem for a person to say whatever he wants is the last wish? As a confession, let him blame the judges for doing it unjustly. If they know deep in the heart of the hearts that they are doing the right thing, why do they care for people to say that it was unjustly? So they said, "Kedei shelo lotzi la'az al batei din v'al ha'edim." We are concerned of the reputation of the court. We don't want people to say that the court and the witness who testified against him are basically liars and untruthful. So every time that a person that receives execution verdict come out and say this type of statement, it caused such a bad reputation that Tiferet Israel said that we not allow that. Tanu Rabbanan. Here is a painful story. מעשה באדם אחד שיצא להרג. It was a fellow that was about to execute it. Amar, he confesses and he said, אם יש בי עוון זה, if I really did committed this terrible sin, that I deserve this verdict of execution, לא תהם מיתתי כפרה לכל עוונותיי. My upcoming death should not be atoned to my sin, which obviously it's alluded to saying that the court is wrong by making such a decision. ואם אין בי עוון זה, but if I'm free of that blame, of that verdict, תהם מיתתי כפרתי לכל עוונותיי, that this upcoming execution will be atoned for all of my sins that I committed for my entire lives. And as you know, in Judaism, we believe in the power of the prayer, the power, the vibration of the Hebrew letters, of the Hebrew words, of the expressions of words. Even it's not in Hebrew, but as long as the Almighty gave you the ability to express yourself, it's holy, it's sacred, your expressions, and especially at this time of crisis and right before the execution, no matter who you are. So when you have this type of last words, last testament, you say, so they said, ubet din v'chol Yisrael menukin. So since it's already done deal, done verdict from the court, so we learn, if you remember on page 6, that the judge can judge only according to the way he sees it. And we are human, and it can happen that the judge make wrong decisions and a new evidence come out and it's different. But based on the decision that the court made, he deserved this punishment. So therefore, that's what the fellow declared. However, and this is the point, he says, "V'ha'edim," but those evil witnesses that came out in a testimony and lied in this testimony, lo teheh lahem mechila le'olam. I'll never ever forgive them for their lying in the doing the the whole deliverance of the litigations. So, and I'll never forgive them. So כששמעו חכמים בדבר, when the sages come to their attention what that fellow said before he was executed, אמרו להחזירו אי אפשר. At this level, at this stage, a moment before his death, obviously we cannot retrieve it and bring him back to court and start the session from the beginning. שכבר נגזרה גזרה, because it's already a decision, Rashi said, by the court that he should be executed, and it's done. Rabbeinu Yonah and Meiri have a little different take, but that's, I'm just going by the Rashi. אלא יהרג, so therefore he will be executed, ויהא קולר תלוי בצוואר העדים. That's a very strong statement. Said he shall be executed, and the chain, meaning in a euphemism, but it's a strong statement, and the change of responsibility for his wrongful execution hangs around the necks of the witnesses. So it means, in a way, you can call it the spiritual, the heavenly punishment, is the Gemara in Makot, page 5. But the idea is that the heavenly court, the tribunal heavenly court, which we're about to see in Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, will punish those witnesses that lie during the process of the deliverance. So, in a way, even the sages did not abrogate it, did not annul the enactment, the decree of executing that person. It means indirectly, in some level, that the sages are concerned about the lies of those witnesses. So therefore the Gemara challenged that, and they said, Pshita, that's so obvious. Not everyone goes by the Pshita, or Aruch Laner and others, but we just go by the way it's written. Kol keminei is the person who is about to be executed can challenge the trust, the sincerity and honesty of those witnesses. If the sages already believe them, or vice versa, if the sages believe to what the person who is about to be executed said, and they express this in the word that, you know what, if this guy is right, the chain of hangs, the responsibility is upon the witnesses, and it's like they implying that is a possibility that those witnesses are lying. So the Gemara said, no, lo tzricha dekahadrei behu sa'adei. So he said that in this case, when the witnesses came out and they said, no, we lie in the court, and you know why they did it? Because they couldn't believe that the court will execute him. And now they hear that happened, they backed out, but the court already make decisions. So therefore, that in that unique, exceptional case, that's the reason why the sages said what they said, that the heavenly tribunal will pay them for their wrongdoing. So the Gemara said, V'chi hadrei behu mai havei. Even we have these cross-examinations, we have all the trials that the person went through, and now just a second before he's dead, they backed out. Why do we care for that? It's already after the verdict was done. So they said, Kevan shehegid, the moment that the witnesses come out the court and express in words what they have to say, and they said it, Shuv eino chozer umagid. You come before the court, you took an oath, you commit yourself, the words that you're saying is the truth and only the truth. You already testified, it was already cross-examinations. You cannot change it. Any change now, it's too late. So how good is it when they come out now and they said what they said? The Torah teaches us that we take the first and foremost testimony as the most reliable testimony, and the moment that happened, we do not care, Rashi said, to what they said afterward. We assume that the first testimony is the truth one. So therefore the sages will not care for what these witnesses said later on, and come out and say that in a way, strong statement. I just repeat what they said. They said, and the chain of responsibility for his wrongful execution hangs around the necks of the witnesses, which is a very strong statement that they leave it to Shamayim, to heavenly court, to punish, because in our belief, what the heavenly tribunal, they know, as we said in Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the Almighty choker bochen klayot valev, the Almighty knows the truth and only the truth what people have in their hearts. So, in addition, Rashi said that we're not allowed to witnesses to come back and backed out from what they already testified and swore. We do not have a room even to suspect that what they said is not true, the original statement, because we have to take it to our assumption, to our consideration, that when they see the result of us coming out and executing this person, they fear that the blood of that upcoming death person is on their hands, and they potentially, Rashi said, can back out of their testimony, just even the testimony is total truth, just out of trepidation, out of anxiety and fear that they are causing death to someone. So in this case of the Braita, the argument is the sages should not come out and indirectly alluded even 1% of 100 that those witnesses are not truthful, just because they come back to court and said, no, we lied, which most probably is because they see the result. So the Gemara said, Lo tzricha de afal gav deka yahavei ta'ama lemiltaihu. They say that it's not necessary to state that the condemned man is executed even when the witnesses retracted their testimony and gave an explanation for having lied in their initial statement. It's like the incident involving Ba'aya, the tax collector, where it was discovered the witnesses was falsely accused the son of Rabbi Shimon ben Shetach in revenge for the sons having sentenced to death for sorcery the witnesses' relatives. So Rashi gives the whole story. Obviously we don't have a time to go the whole story. You're welcome to read, and the translation of the Rashi, I'm just giving you the abbreviation. Rashi described the incidents in a great length. The funeral of Ba'aya, who was a wicked tax collector, I'm just reading from current translation. It's easy for me then to translate word by word the Rashi. So Ba'aya, who was a wicked tax collector, took place at the same time as the funeral of an especially pious rabbi. Due to unforeseen circumstances, the coffins were exchanged. Can you imagine? And Ba'aya was buried with great honor, this horrible person, whereas the pious rabbi was led to rest in shame. The rabbi appeared to one of his disciples in a dream and explained what had happened. And he then added that Rabbi Shimon ben Shetach will be severely punished for tolerating in Ashkelon 80 women guilty of practiced sorcery. Hearing this, Rabbi Shimon had the women executed. Seeking revenge, the relatives of these women testified falsely against the son of Rabbi Shimon ben Shetach that he was guilty of capital offense, and he was sentenced to death. As he was being led out to his execution, the witness admitted that they had totally lied, but their retraction of their testimony was not accepted. This is also to recount in Talmud Yerushalmi, Jerusalem Talmud, with slight variations. I encourage you to read the whole story in Rashi. It's heartbreaking, it's fascinating. It's a famous Khatam Sofer on Rashi that elaborates on important of interrogation and inquiries before taking the witnesses, and how serious it can be when they make such a mistake. Now is again, you see how circumspect, how careful we are before we're making the final decisions. Here is one of the 4 death sentence, which is the stonings, and as the rabbis tells us, even the Beit HaMikdash at this temporary time is not there yet. We believe that Arba Mitod Bedin, the 4 forms of execution, is still appealed. The rabbis tells us, as you remember, we not long ago studies, that God forbid if someone die in an accident, someone die in a weird death, and more, is indirectly the Arba Mitod Bedin, the 4 different type of execution that heavenly tribunal decided to do to a certain person. So here is a description, Haya rachok mibeit haskila 4 amot, when the person who is about to be stoned, he is the condemned man, he is in a distance of 4 cubits for the place of stoning. Here is the process, and you see soon how sensitive and not only heartbreaking, but how careful we are with respect to a person, even a person who committed a sin and about to be executed. So the text said, "Mafshitim oto et bgadav." The Jewish law requires a person to be naked. V'ragmu oto meaning that Rashi said that his body is naked. So therefore, ha'ish mechasin oto milfanav. The man, Rabbi Yonatan said, in order to avoid embarrassment, we take like a sheet or whatever it is, towel, and cover his private part at the front of him. We do it in a way just to show respect, Rabbi Yonatan said. V'ha'isha, but if it's a female, milfanea u'me'acharea. The Gemara explained that the woman is different, obviously because of the whole idea of women. It's different in the mindset of people, so therefore we cover her both, the front and the back, Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Based on this, as we said, the late Rabbi Waldenberg, which I have the privilege to know him in person, who wrote the responsa called Tzitz Eliezer, he wrote a responsa based on this view of Rabbi Yehuda. Look how important is the word of Mishnah. If a medical doctor allowed to bring students to the hospital, for example, to examine a patient while it's involved seeing the patient naked, with if the doctors need the consent of a patient. Again, we're not talking legal, we talk about Jewish ethical medical ethics, because some patients, male or female obviously, agreed to see their body by their doctors, but not necessarily agree to have their residents, their students, being at presence when they are naked or when they are examined certain part of their body. So again, there is a response based on this Mishnah, because here you see the statement of the Mishnah that Rabbi Yehuda hold that, for example, a female, you need to cover, for those obvious reasons, the front and the back of her body. Then v'chachamim omrim ha'ish niskal arom ve'en ha'ishka niskelet aroma. The sages said that the woman, the man, when it's all said and done, stone with total naked. Women, no, you don't do it even at that very moment. The Rambam in Ilchot Sanhedrin explained that when the time comes, here is the word of the Rambam. I'm reading from Rav Steinzer's edition, Rambam Ilchot Sanhedrin, chapter 15. You see also in Alechem Mishneh. A man is stone naked, but a woman is not stone naked. That's basically the view of the Chachamim, the sages. The men, Gentiles, are, however, covered from the front, and the Rabbi agree with Rabbi Yehuda in regards to this issue. That's the Kesef Mishneh on the Rambam. A woman is stoned wearing only a single layer of clothing in order to minimize her suffering as much as possible. So one view is the idea of suffering, but others said, like Dinah de Chaye and others, that is out of respect. Because the temptation or the way that people sees women is different than men. Page 45, the Gemara. Tanu Rabbanan. Now the Gemara elaborates on this Mishnah, because the Mishnah is very condensed and we need to understand all variation, and as you see there's a lot of applications to our lives. So the rabbis teach us in the Braita, האיש מכסין אותו פרק אחד מלפניו. The man, we basically covers his Gentiles, his private part, with one place of cloth in the front. Rashi, as you know, I wrote a book or books about the word klomar in Rashi. Rashi here used the word klomar and he said klomar me'at mimenu milfanav. I humbly think that Rashi meant to say, how come when it's come to this you differentiate between men and women? We all need the respect, but also why you require but different requirement for men and women, and what is the purpose, since the Torah said oto, which means that the person is naked. So Rashi said me'at mimeno. He explained and he said it's just a little part to show kavod, to show respect, and he goes also to give another explanation. Rashi in his beauty said v'yesh omrim perek chatichad beged. So it means there are those who say that it's just perek, it's the Rema said it's just the genital area or piece of cloth. Again, it's all about respect. I humbly think that's what Rashi bothers, and how come and what's the size and how is the difference between men and women and more. But the isha, when it's come to female, shnei prakim, Yad Rama also have explanation. Shnei prakim, two parts, two pieces, ben milfanea, ben me'acharea, mipnei shekula erva. So the two pieces of cloth, one the front, one the back, because all of the area is nakedness, which may not be viewed. That's based in Gemara in Sotah, page 8, that for some men, all the women's body, when it's naked, it's considered a problem. Or Ben Yonatan said that obviously you cannot compare a naked body of man to naked body of woman. That's the way the Almighty created us. So anyway, divrei Rabbi Yehuda, which logically makes a lot of sense. V'chachamim omrim ha'ish niskal arom ve'en ha'isha niskelet aroma, also makes a lot of sense. The sages said, look, men, it's different, you cannot change. That's the way the Almighty created us. Men should be stoned naked, women not. Women should be wear clothes. She is not stoned naked because it's totally different. You cannot treat them equally in that sense. It's a respectful way of death. The people make mistakes, they need to be punished, but you cannot treat it women's in such a desecration of such a hurtful way before the time of their passing. So, umay ta'amayhu de Rabbanan. What's the rationale? We are now zooming in the last view. The last view is the view of the sages that hold that only men should be stoned naked, not women. Amar kra v'ragmu oto. The Torah speaks about horrible men that blaspheme God, in our language, quote unquote, bless God. And the Torah said in the book of Vayikra, Leviticus chapter 24, verse 14, so they basically stone, all the congregation shall stone him. So the question is, my oto, what's the reason they use the word oto? As you know, the Malbim explains, the Torah is very prudent. By the way, Malbim, Rabbi Meir Leivush, was a student of my great-grandfather, the Zidichover Rebbe, Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch of Zidichoy. Anyway, the Malbim explained, that the word veragmu oto looks like extension of letters, of words. It should be urgamuhu, which means just one word, and it appears superfluous to have two words. The reason for that is my oto, ilema oto velo ota, which means the Torah implies almost lucidly that is only for men. We differentiate between the final stage of stoning between male and female, that he should be naked and not her. That's the view of the sages. V'haktiv, the Torah said in a different place, which in a way we make some type of juxtaposition of the text. in the book of Deuteronomy, Devarim, chapter 17, verse 5, V'hotzeita et ha'ish hahu, or et ha'isha hahi, which means, you see here from the text, they speak about people who use sorcery and use all kind of things against the Torah, against the blueprint of life, God's law. And you see here a clear statement for male and for female. Elamai oto, oto obviously is a term that applies to male. So oto belo ksuto, which means male should be stoned without his garment, because the Torah used two words. Ha-ota, versus when it's come to female, bichsuta, and that's the reason why the Torah add the word oto that applies to men, which means that you stone physically his body, naked body, and that's the implication of the Torah, the derivative from the word oto, which means oto, not ota, oto meaning male, which means only male we do this type of things, which is stone naked, not female. That's the Rabbeinu Yonah, Yad Ramah, and many others. Tosfot disagree. Tosfot tells us that from the word oto, it's that the whole concept of stoning is naked, and it's not necessarily a derivative from the text. And Tosfot explains something that also makes a lot of sense, that people who are present and watching should not seize a woman naked by any means, even if in a way she deserves execution. So as you see, it's a very sensitive and it's a lot of views, what exactly involved and how. You can read more, as we said, in Tosfot in Sotah, page 8, in the Gemara in Kiddushin, and Rashi Tosfot in Kiddushin 35, in the Gemara in Bava Kama, page 15, and more. And so if that makes a lot of sense, and here the view of the sages that women should be dressed when it's this final stage of execution, how come Rabbi Yehuda hold differently? Rabbi Yehuda Omer, oto, the reason that the Torah add the word oto for male, which is him naked, belo ksuto, lo shna ish velo shna isha. According to Rabbi Yehuda, in our simple language, and I'm joking, is like equal rights. You cannot differentiate between men and women, which means oto teaches just the general concept, which usually in the biblical terms they use a male concept, but doesn't mean that it's just male. And he said that the whole essence of the law, that there are certain circumstances that deserve execution of punishment, you should do it while that person makes no difference if it's male or female. According to Rabbi Yehuda, they should be total naked, and as we said just before the execution, little clothing. And by using the word oto is nothing to do with differentiation between male and female, and in that sense, according to Rabbi Yehuda, Rashi said it's all equal. The general term, we see it in several places in the Shas. They use the word hishva hakatuv isha leish lechol mitot shebatorah. When it's come to punishment of execution, the biblical term, the biblical precept did not differentiate between male and female. And you see more, as we said, Tosfot in Bava Kama, page 15, more on this subject. So, lemeimra. So the rabbis go in deeper, and you know, the beauty of our religion, the beauty of our Torah and Talmud teaching, we are saying it the way it is. So they said lemeimra, it means the Rabbanan chayshei lehirhura. You derive from that, guess what? That the rabbis are concerned that the sight of a naked woman will arouse sexual thoughts among the onlookers, meaning, and therefore it's obviously a violation of the Jewish ethics and Jewish laws. So, ורבי יהודה לא חייש לערעורה. What you derive from that, let's face it, that Rabbi Yehuda is basically not concerned about such a sexual thoughts, even at that time of tremendous crisis. The Aruch LaNer and others challenge that, because Rabbi Yehuda, according to Aruch LaNer, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's no difference between men and women, and it's a discussion, but anyway, so they said, V'ha'ipcha shma'anina lo ditnan. If you remember when we studied in Tractate Sotah, page 7, the case of a woman that was suspected of being unfaithful to her husband, is a procedure. The Torah said in the book of Numbers, book of Bamidbar, chapter 5, that is a ritual procedure. If you remember, we talked that the Kohen take a piece of parchment, write the holy name of God, combine it with water, ask her to drink it, the whole ritual procedure. And then they said, Kohen ochez big vgadea. So the Kohen hold her garments. So they said, Im nikreu, nikreu, ve'im nifremu, nifremu, which means the Kohen doesn't need to tear garments. And they said, the Kohen, the priest, grabs hold of her clothing and pulls it without concern about what happened to it. If the clothes are torn, they are torn. If the stitches come apart, they come apart, as he pulls her clothing until he reveals her heart, her chest. So they said, Ad shemegale liba v'soteret se'ara. Also, the same applies to her hair. So until he unbraid her hair. So Rabbi Yehuda hold that if her heart was attractive, he will not reveal it. And if her hair was attractive, he will not unbraid it. ורבי יהודה אומר, אם היה ליבה נאה, לא היה מגלהו, ומהיה שערה נאה, לא היה סותרו. And obviously, the same way as the Torah require the Kohen to do it, is also to avoid people watching her. So here you see an indication that according to Rabbi Yehuda was concerned about the sexual thought on the onlookers. So you see here the sages who institute all kind of practical law, they have the power, the Gemarrah Yevamot 89 said, to say that in this case, because she is, for example, attractive, you can't do that. So Amar Rabbah Hatam, over there you cannot compare, you cannot juxtapose. You know why? Over there in Sotah, in woman that's suspected to be faithful, is the reason that Rabbi Yehuda says that the Kohen does not reveal the woman's chest or unbraid hair, is that she walk out of the rabbinic court having proven total innocent, and those young priests in the temple who saw her partially naked will become provoked by the sight of her. Let's face it, the rabbis are practice and practical. Shema tetzem bedin zakav v'tguru b'pirchei kehuna, which is the Gemara in Sotah, Rashi in Sotah, page 8 said that that's the young priests, but it's not only young, it's just use the young because that's the people that we're concerned the most. Ha 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 mikatla, but over there she's been executed and that's happened right away. So you not have a concern that you have a follow-up by the people who watch her. So it means that someone who watch her, he may will be provoked with regard to other women. This is not a concern. We have a general rule, obviously to average person, that's the tradition, that the evil inclination controls only that which one's eyes sees. So obviously something that is not visible, Melo Aroim and others explain that woman that you never sees, it's totally different. Amar Rava, the Rabbi Yehuda Kashya, the Rabbanan lo Kashya. So Rava asked a question, look, we are comparing two different cases. In a sense, we're taking this text of the Niskelet and the text of Sotah, and we try to juxtapose. And we said, okay, the same way as the issues of one place in others, the hirhur, the thinking about Avera, can be different. So the sage's rule when it's come to the skila is also difficult because in both cases they have a concern that people may have all kind of wrong thoughts. As the rabbi explained, it's not an issue, it's not contradiction between one statement of Rabbi Yehuda and the other. ורבנן אמרו קשיא אמר קרא ונבשרו כל הנשים לא תעשינה כזימתכנה. So here we bring a source from book of Yechezkel, Ezekiel chapter 23, verse 48. And the pasuk translated and it said, and all the women may be chastened not to do like you lewdness. It means, in general, the Navi, the prophet, is kind of argue with the nation, and he makes some type of euphemism, mashal, the relationship between the nation, follow all these different type of idol worshipping. In those days it was unfortunately very common for people to go, and he compared it to a unfaithful wife that have an affair with many men. So in a sense, the nation of Israel, when they go after idol worshipping, they compare it to that unfaithful wife. So the whole idea, they derive also here from the subject of Sotah, that all the women, Yechezkel said, that sees what happened to the woman that not faithful to her husband, how she ends up, and then they take it seriously and they don't do the same as she did. So that's the idea of Bani Basru, they receive a musar, so they all women may be chastened not to do like your lewdness, which in a way, via negativa, teach women to be faithful. The Malbim, in the book of Bamidbar, chapter 5, verse 18, have Mahalach here, but anyway, it's good to read the Malbim both in Yechezkel and here. So, in a sense, with the Sotah, in addition for her, the Farshim said, to have Ashka'at HaMayim, to have the water, she also had this embarrassment. Even we do not have a proof that she did, and it turns out that she didn't, but the fact that she went through that basically caused some type of trepidation or concern. That's the way they interpreted the text. Rashi said the whole idea of effect on the community and effect of others. Rashi said that the Torah did not need to go to all details how the Kohen, embarrassed with her hair and everything else, but they do it in order to warn others. Hacha en lecha yisur gadol mizeh. Here is nothing more, in a sense of chastening than you stoning. That's kind of worse. In other words, the way Rashi tried to tell us that it's not so much the mindset, or it's not even the mindset of Yerhu, of thought. It's only idea, it's that the act itself of stoning. And the Gemara added to that and said, "V'chi teima le'avid ba tartei," which is in the case of skila you do both, which is bizui, denigration, and skila. So that's basically even warn people much seriously. The big question is why you need to go so far, why you need to go to that level of denigration. The Chatan, the son-in-law of the Malbim, at the end of the book, Ratzot HaChayim, whose name is Eliyahu Halperin, Moreno Arab Eliyahu Halperin, he have a comment and explanation why they go so far. But anyway, Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba Avua, Amar Kra, we derive from well-known pasuk. The Torah tells us in the book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verse 18, ואהבת לרעך כמוך, love thy neighbor as thyself. What does that mean? ברור לו מיתה יפה, which means select a compassionate death for him, which means when putting, in this case, it was a female, a woman to death by stoning, she should not be humiliated in the process. Meaning we should be careful to do it without hurting the feeling. In a way, it's enough watching it to go through. That's one explanation. The Rabbeinu Yonah, Tosfot, and others have different explanations. The Shita Mekubetzet in Tractate Tubot that ask a question: how do you compare it? Here you talk about criminal. Over there you talk about all the different sects. So what is the shayachut? What is the connection to ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love thy neighbor as thyself? So he tried to say that there is a difference between making a confession, now we're getting close to Rosh Hashanah and Kippurim, versus, it's like you take the story of Achan. Achan, who took away all the leftover from Jericho, he confesses before he was stoned, before he was killed. Here, when you have this act of stoning, the whole idea of being naked kind of that's the it's unnecessary, or it's even in a way some of Mepharshim said it is wrong. Leima de Rav Nachman Tana'ehi. Maybe you said that Rav Nachman that you have to choose the easiest undegraded death is depend upon the disputation among the Tanaim. Why? Because since the sages agree upon that because of these rules you cannot stone without cover her, so it means Rabbi Yehuda didn't hold that way. So they said, Lo de kula al ma'itlu de Rav Nachman. Everyone, both Chachamim and Rabbi Yehuda hold what Rav Nachman said, at which and you should try to find a way not to humiliate the person, even the time that was a strong verdict for such a behavior, criminal behavior. Mar, which is the sages hold, Savar bizyonei de inish adifalei tfei min yacha de gufei. So, in a sense, women prefer to be dressed and not to be denigrated, even the verdict of skila. So therefore, leaving her dress is basically mitayafa. It's basically unhumiliated death. Umar Rabbi Yehuda Savar neichad degufe adif mi bizyonei. He says that one's physical comfort is better for him or her than minimizing his or her degradation. And therefore, the one being executed prefers to be stoned unclothed without any change of the clothing, prolonging his death, even though this increase his denigration. You say, in a way, Rashi and others said that it's like people care less over that at that stage of their life. Based on this deal, there is a many halachot that use. Just one example, the late Rabbeinu Moshe Feinstein, Zecher Tzadik Libracha, have a response. There was someone who suffered greatly, and he asked to get a certain medicine, and the doctors know deep in the heart of hearts that those medications will expedite the demise eventually of a person. Maybe not in a matter of hours, but in a matter of kind of, if you can evaluate it, it's like, for example, if a person is supposed to suffer for 3 days, that's person to suffer maybe half a day or 1 day. So indirectly, it's passive euthanasia. It's not active that you put the injection in his vein and cause him to demise immediately, but it's passive. So it's a big, long response. If in one hand you reduce the excruciating pain or the death a person the doctor gives a whole, if it's permissible by any means of halacha. But in general, we should know, we never paskin based on this shiurim, and this type of questions always need to have she'elat chacham. You need to go to a prominent posek, prominent rabbis that are really familiar with this subject and take the responsibility to respond for this type of question. Mishnah. Now we go to the act itself of skila, of stoning. Beit haskila. Beit haskila. So the First Israel and others said that that's the place of stoning in those days from which the condemned person is pushed to his death, is a platform twice the height of an ordinary person. He is made to stand in the edge of the platform, and then one of the witnesses who testified against him pushes him down by the hips so that he falls face up onto the ground. That's one of the four mitot. So they said that it was at the top of a hill or top of a well. Some said it was at the top of a special building. The first said it was designated for them. that היה גבוה שתי קומות, אחד מן העדים דוחפו על מותניו ונהפך על ליבו. So the Rambam explains, I'm just reading the Rambam, the place of stoning is a platform twice the height of an ordinary person. The condemned party is brought up to the platform with his hands tied, and one of the witnesses who has testified against him pushes him by the hips from beyond, and he falls on his face to the ground. If he dies from this fall, the obligation of stoning has been fulfilled. You don't need to do that. If he does not die, the second witness that basically testified against him takes a large stone and throws it on his chest. If he does not die from this first stone, he is stoned by all those present. This is the Rambam quoting Tractate Sanhedrin chapter 15. Obviously, there is much to say. First, the Aruch LaNer points out that the pasuk, if you go and zoom in the literal text of the pasuk in the Torah, this verse, that the hands of the witnesses, which is both of them, should be upon him, why then is the condemned party pushed by only one of the witnesses? So you see in the Lekach Tov, say that this is derived from the words, the pasuk, they shall stone, Ragom Yirgemu, him, in Leviticus 24, where the first word, Ragom, is in a singular, and the second one is Yirgemu, so that's plural. There is a book called She'arim Metzuyanim Bahalacha. You see it also in Shavut Yaakov, how exactly you do it in the interpretation of the text. But anyway, ופכול בטנו ומותניו וימת ביצע ויבלב, השם נותן את האבן נותנה ליבו, ימת ביצע ויבלב רגלתו בכל ישראל, שנאמר ילדים תעברו שנה לביתו ועליו כל האחרונה. So basically what they said, if the condemned man does not die from this fall, then you go by the second witness. If he die, fine. Otherwise, all the people needs to do it. People who assemble for the execution, because they said in Deuteronomy 17, the hand of the witnesses shall be first upon him to put him to death, and afterward the hand of all people. Again, for people not familiar, I want to mention something that we said many times, that the rabbis commented that Bet Din that put someone to death once in a 70 years is considering a murder of Bet Din. So the point is, we are talking only in the sense of hypothetical cases, not something that happened, but as we said, is a lot of halakhic derivative indirectly from the study. Gemara. First, we're dealing with the heights of the house of stone. Tana v'koma shelo, harei kan shalosh. So they said, when you talk about the heights of the platforms, is the twice height of the ordinary person, and the condemned on heights, it turned to be the heights of 3 times the heights of ordinary person. It might be bainan kulei. Why you need all of that? ורמינו מה בור שהוא כדי להעמיד 10 טפחים, אף כל כדי להעמיד 10 טפחים. We learn from a pit. We learn from a pit that is sufficient depth to cause by depth of falling into it at least 10 handbreadth deep. So it should be here. If a fall of 10 handbreadth is sufficient to kill a person, why must the platform from which the condemned man is pushed be twice the height of ordinary person? So they said, אמר רב נחמן אמר רבא ברבו, אמר קרא ואהבת לרעך כמוך, בואו לו מיתה יפה. So as we explained earlier, we said, we derived from the pasuk in Leviticus 19, love thy neighbor as thyself, that you should choose something that they have compassionate of death. Yes, there is a verdict, but it should be compassionate. So even though the one who been executed is likely to die from the fall a lesser height, a platform was built that is twice the heights of the ordinary person in order to ensure a quick and relatively painless death. So the Gemara challenged, they said, Yachel digbehei tfei, so if that's the case, make it higher. So they said, Mishum deminaval, it is not done because if the condemned man will push from the higher platform, he will become seriously disfigured. And this will no longer consider a compassionate form of death. It's just, Rabbi Yonatan said it is like denigrating the respect of the human body and is like overkilling. Again, just example of derivative of halachot. There are some contractors who are dropping animals. For example, I saw it years back when people use for kaparot before Yom Kippurim, using ham, using chicken. You know, these people that we are using tzedakah here, but there are people who are taking the chicken and sitting around the hand before Yom Kippur. So you see the contractors throwing those cages, and it's damaging those animals. So the question by halacha, if that basically make the animals stray far, non-valid, not kosher, or not, because some of those animals were taken later on to be used as to slaughter as a meat. Anyway, it's a response on that. We explained that one of the witnesses who testified against condemned party pushing off the platform, Tanu Rabbanan, the sage teachers, they said that the 3 days of preparations before receiving the revelation of the Torah, so they said anyone who touched the mountain Sinai should be died. That's the Torah in the book of Shemot, chapter 19, verse 13. So they said, Minayin shebidchiyah. So how do you know that that's applied to pushing off the condemned party from the highest place? So they said, Talmud Lomar Yaro, because the text, the verse, used the word Yaro. So literally Yaro is throwing. Obviously, like the Torah said in the Kriyat Yamsuf, that the chariot, Markevot Paro Vechelo Yara Bayam. Yara, Rashi said, Yishlich, the throne, or Onkelos said, Yaro Yarei. Anyway, that's not the literal understanding of the text, but anyway, Minayin Shebiskilat, Talmud Lomar Sakol. And he's stoning because they said it should be stoned. Minayin Shebiskila Ubidchiyah, how do you know to do both? So they said, Talmud Lomar Sakol Yisakel or Yaro Yiyare. Because the Torah repeats twice, he shall be stoned or shall be thrown down. So you listen to the word, Sakol Yisakel, Yaro Yiyare. So you double times. So it's different between Chesharan, Rabbi Yola, and Rashi. What does that mean when the Torah repeats the words? Minayin she'imed bidchiyah yatsa. How do you know that if it was pushed and it's already, he's gone, will fulfill the mitzvah? So they said, Talmud Lomar, or Yaro Yare, because the Torah said it's like an optional, or shall be thrown down. The moment you use the term or, that's basically indication that only one or two options must be fulfilled. You don't have to have both. Minayin she'af ledorot ken. How do you know that all these ruling in regards to stoning, when it's come to the time that the people around the Mount Sinai, applies also to the future generation for all the Chayavei Skilot. 45b, Talmud lomar sakol yisakel. So here we have the pasuk that speaks in a language of future. The tense is the future and is a repetition of the word sakol, sakol yisakel, which means they said that it should be a throne, stones with double verb. So it means that this basically saying that is the Rashash and the Rashi. Rashash have two explanations. It's basically applies to all places at all times. Rabbeinu Yonah and Chilushei Aran try to say that is another derivative that you have to do two things: the pushing, the dchiyah, and also the skila if he did not pass away yet from pushing. Anyway, ve'im lav, if he did not pass away toward that notion of stoning, ed sheni notelet ha'emen. So Mishnah said that if the person who has the verdict of being executed did not die from the first one, so the second witness take the stone. So then basically completed by doing that. So the Gemara asks a question, notel, you mean to say that the second witness by himself need to take that stone and do that? Ve'atanya, we learn in the Braita, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Even hayta sham. In the house of stoning, it was a special stone. Later you see Aruch LaNer and others speaks about that stone, but anyway, Masoi Shnei Bnei Adam, meaning you need to be one of those muscles guys, right, to carry it, because average you need to have 2 men carry that stone. Notla venotna alibo. So the second witness carry it and he throw it on the one who's been executed. If he met ba yatsa, if that fellow passed away, meaning been stoned, he fulfilled the obligation, the mitzvah of skila. You don't need to do anything. So if that's the case, so if you tell me that that stone was prepared in the house of stoning to throw it and it was too heavy from the second witness to carry it, so why the Braita said that the second witness carried that stones? So they said, Veleta amich, and according to the view you explained, Tikshelach, it will be difficult for you, as first states that the stones was weight could be lifted only by 2 men, Masoi Shnei Bnei Adam, Notla venotna libo. So how that can be? He gufa. You tell me in one hand that is the carry of 2 men, and then you tell me in a singular way that the second witness alone cast it so that they should fall into with force upon the condemned party's chest. How that can be? And 2 people walking together cannot aim the throw with precision. Ela demadlela behadei chaverei, that one carry with his fellow, which is the second witness. Veshadei leihu ki hechedeteitei merazia. So they do it together, so it will fall that way. So Aruch LaNer asks a question: why you need the 2? So he tried to say that because the pasuk, the verse said, Yad ha'edim. They used the singular term of Yad, Leshon Yachid. But then the Mishnah said, Ve'im lav regimato, meaning if that person who chosen to be, whose a verdict to be executed did not die after throwing out and after they receiving the stone on his chest, so then everyone, Yad kol ha'am, Yad ha'edim, Yad kol ha'am, so everyone should do it, all the people in gather. V'hatanya ma'olam lo shana ba'adam mikamrinan David imitzricha ka'amina. It never happened, but hypothetically, potentially speaking, If that happened, we should know that then, under these circumstances, neither the first witness nor the second one, when that, then everyone present needs to take care of that. Amar Tanya said in the Braita, Even Haita. Now we talk about that particular stones. So he said it was a stone. Tanya Even Achat Sheniskal ba. It was a stone with which the condemned party was stoned. Ve'achad etz shenitla alav, and the tree, as we know that after the one who's stoned, we have the mitzvah to hang him on a tree. Ve'achad saif shene'erag bo, or the sword that was being killed. Ve'achad sudar shenechnak bo, and the other one is the cloth which was a person who deserves strangulation was strangled. Kulan nikbarim imo. They are all together. That's part of Rabbeinu Yonah and Rama, and many others say that that's the derivative from the pasuk Kavor tikberenu. It means that because it's repeated twice, the roots word Kavor, meaning all the things that involve with that death. So why the Braita said it was a special stone that used for all these different stonings? So they said, so they said that they will prepare other stones and bring them to the place of stoning in their place. So it means that it's not one stone that used for all different type of stonings, but each time they have a different stone. So in general, as we said, Aruch Laner here elaborates on the concept of Yad HaEdim. Yad is a singular, Edim is plural, but there is a Shoel Umeishiv, that's one of the important commentary on the Gemara, more contemporary. So the Shoel Umeishiv asks, if you tell me that Reuven and Shimon come and bear witness against Yaakov, and Yaakov was punished by a verdict of a penalty of death, and then Levi Yehuda comes in and said, Imanu ayitem, you are conspiring witnesses, and at this time you are with us in different location. So what we said, kasher zamam velo kasher asa. If it's already done deal, so you punish those conspiring witnesses so how that can reconcile with this? So anyway, the Pnei Menachem, the late Gemarrah Rebbe, which I have a privilege to know in person, I have a skoma from him. The Pnei Menachem was not for a long time the previous Gemarrah Rebbe, the brother of the previous one. So he explained that that because it wasn't lo hayta atra'ah, because it wasn't act of warning, so therefore you cannot execute the conspiring first two witnesses. Anyway, Rav Piנחas Menachem Alter was a great man. Anyway, I used to have the privilege to go there and get upper from him, Motzei Shabbos, and I have also a skama to my first book, handwriting from him. Anyway, Nikbarin imo. Ve'atanya en nikbarim imo. So we derive from the word tikberenu that you bury him without anything else. And here you see that you bury with him. So they explain, Amar of Papa mai imo betfisato, in the area of surrounding his grave, which is in the 4 cubits in Arba Amot. That's the way Rashi explains. It's almost like saying Lashon Hara about the stone, the cherev. You don't want people to say that this stone or this sword killed a person. It's called Davar Meguneh, it's embarrassing. That Ha'even Azot Arga et Ploni, that this stone is, I remember when I go to Dead Sea, they show you, for sure it's not real, it says, you see this pillar, this is a pillar of salt that the wife of Lot turned to pillar. There's a certain thing that you denigrate the stones and it's like a mark of shame. So anyway, Amar Shmuel, So Shmuel says, if the witness's hands were severed after the transgressor was sentenced to be stoned, so that they can no longer stone him themselves. So Amar Shmuel nikte'a yad ha'edim patur. So he's free, he's exempt from punishment, and he's not executed. Dev'ina, because we derive from the book of Dvarim, chapter 17, yad ha'edim tiyeh bo barishona. The text said, the hand of the witnesses shall be first upon him to put him to death. And here is not possible, Veleika, because they cut off the head. So the big question is if that's the ikuva, if this is tnai me'akev or not tnai me'akev. It's a discussion how you can do it. There is a responsa shelot u'tshuvot chavot ya'ir in Siman Kuf Samech Zayin, chapter 167. So he dealing with Gidem. How do you treat someone who's basically most of the people are lefty, and if someone unfortunately part of his body like his hands cuts, what do you do when it's come to the mitzvah of putting tefillin? Anyway, Ela me'ata eidim gidmim deme'ikara hachena medefsilei. If you tell me that the witnesses themselves must stone the transgressor, or else the sentence is not carried out, if the witnesses lack hands from the outset, when they offer their testimony, are they also disqualified? So they say, so they explain, Shaneatam damakra yad ha'edim sha'ayta kvar. Here they said that the hand of witness, which means that they were there already when the witness gave their testimony, must throw the first stone when the transgressor is executed. So if the witnesses already lack hands at the time of their testimony, others can throw the first stones. So the Afikei Yam was a very wealthy man in the past generation who unfortunately lost his wealth and he became rabbi. And anyway, so he wrote a beautiful write-up over this sugya. So he said, imagine you have 10 witnesses, and unfortunately one of them have no longer a hand. So their original testimony, kvila or not. So in short, it's a big malach. The bottom line, he said, as long as you have left 2 witnesses with 2 hands each, then it's accepted. Anyway, meitivei. That's Gemara in Makot, page 7. כל מקום שידעו שניים ויאמרו מעידים אנו באיש פלוני שגמר דינו בבית דין ופלוני ופלוני ידיו. If they said, we testified about Mr. So-and-so death sentence was issued in such and such court, and so and so and so and so were the witnesses, he is executed. הרי זה ייהרג. So that's basically not the way that Shmuel said. תרגמה שמואל, הן עדיו. Shmuel said that they are the same witness who had testified against him at the original trial, and they are present to throw the first stone. So the late Rav Moshe Feinstein, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, and you see it also in response of Rav Weiss, the Minchat Yitzchak. He was asked about ashtalat evarim, of donation of body, organ donation and other donations. So is that, sometimes it saves people's life. The question is if a person mechuyav, if you are obligated to do it or not. Remember, we're not talking civil, we're talking religious law. So you have in one hand the Ridvaz. The Ridvaz hold very strongly that it's a chovah, that it's obligation. The Or Sameach disputed the Ridvaz and he said no, it's not chovah, it's not obligatory. And he bring a raya, he bring a proof from our sugya. Because what we said if you have a witnesses that lie in their testimony, and the famous story of the son of Shimon ben Shetach, so we said that it's already done deal, because you already cut the hand and there's nothing there. So the Moshe Feinstein have a very fascinating malach here. He said, it's like the story you mentioned the other day, when the Nazi walked in the Auschwitz, and they want to kill someone and they beg not to do it. So he asks people, what are you willing to sacrifice? Can I take Mr. So-and-so finger? Can I take Mr. So-and-so ear in exchange of saving life of your... So that's a complicated שאלות קשות בהלכה, and obviously we're not going to solve them, but there are several responses over that. If something come up, one should ask a prominent posek. ומי באינן קרקי דכתיב והתניא מות יומת המכה רוצח הוא אין לי אלא במיתה הכתובה בו, which means that's saif, Rashi said it, using a sword. שאתה אומר בכל מיתה שאתה יכול להמיתו. So it means you can do it in any form that you can do, any mode of execution with which you can put him to death. תלמוד לומר מות יומת המכה בכל מקום. Because you have the double verse teaches mot yumat, that is put to death in any case, by any mode of executions. So you see that the situation that the condemned party also should be executed even if the witnesses cannot cast the first stone. So Rashi in Bava Metzia 31b, he said that even a person like ran and he is in a boat, you just cannot find him, but you know he's in a boat. So basically you're allowed to sink the boat if you cannot catch him. But the Rogochover have a response over it, and he said, trace the situation if the witnesses said we can't do it, we can't push from second floor the person. So the question is, when it's all said and done, based on this sugya, can they use the other form of execution instead, if the witnesses cannot perform their duty? Talmud lomar mot yumat hamakeh mikol makom. So the Gemara said, Shane atam. That's basically disputed what Shmuel said. So Shane atam, when it's come to murderer, the amar kra mot yumat. So the Gemara asks, Veligmar minei, why you learn this halakha, a principle that can be applied in all cases of capital punishment? So they said, here is different. Why? That's basically the whole concept of binyan av. It's one of the 13 principles of Rabbi Ishmael. It's like Mamatzino. So he said, משום דעה ורוצח וגואל אדם, שני כתובים הבאים כאחד, וכל שני כתובים הבאים כאחד, הם מלמדים. He says, because they have here both the murderer and the blood redeemer, the relative of one who was killed, who takes it upon himself to redeem the relative's death. There are two psukim that come as one, and the rule is that two psukim that come as one do not teach a principle. So here you see that the halakha stated that the Torah, in the Torah, with regard to two individuals' cases, the halakha is understood to apply only to those cases. Anyway, רוצח אדם, הר"ן גואל אדם מעיד, תניא גואל אדם ימית הרוצח, מצווה בגואל אדם, ומניין שאם אין לו גואל, שבדין מאמין במגואל, שמען בפוגו בו בכל מקום. So there are a few things. First, the Rambam. According to Ramban, in Mitzvat Aseh 13, the Rambam missed this halakha. The whole idea of Goel Adam, that the relative of that person who is being killed can go ahead and do it if the fellow left the rescue city. So the big question is, if that's the Chatchila, that Goel Adam should do it, and otherwise b'diavad, only in a hindsight you can appoint someone else. But the Shelot v'Tshuvot Chavot Yair, so response to Chavot Yair, Siman Kuf Mem Vav, chapter 146, he asked a very painful question. He asked why the Rambam at the first place, Ishmit halakha zo, just omitted this halakha, and he left Betzarich Iyun. But you see more on that in a book called Tumim and also the Ktsot HaChoshen. אמר לי מר קשישה בריידר רב חיסדא לרב אשי ומי לא בעין הנקרא דכתיב והתנן, we learn on page 71 about Ben Sorer, rebellious sons. So there's a certain category that one should call, which is he's just turned 13, he stole money from his parents in order to buy meat and wine, and then he ate in a very unbecoming, to say the least, form. That's basically the process of Ben Soil, which again the rabbi said it never happened. It's just a hypothetical case, but we can derive from that a lot. So אחד מהם גידם או אילם או חיגר או סומה או חירש, או נעשה בן צורר ומורה, שנאמר ותפסו בו ולא גידמים והוציאו אותו, ולא חיגרים, אינו נעשה בנו, ולא חיגרים ואמרו ולא אילמים, בנינו ולא סומים, אינו שומע בקולנו ולא חרשים. מה היא טעמה? למה מישהו מדברים על קרא דכתיב? לא, שהנדם דכולי קרא יתראו. So the Meiri adds to that, and he says that you cannot, if shaladun, you cannot judge Ben Sorer Moreh if he was raised with horim baalei mumim, parents with deficiencies. But there is a Chavot Yair and Shvut Yaakov. What exactly, how you treated cases like that? Hargu and Ragim, Zaruch Laner. Anyway, we're running out of time. Tashma, let's just finish the sugya up to the Mishnah. Tashma, אין לרחוב, אין נעשה טירה נידחת. דברי רבי ישמעאל, רבי עקיבא אומר, אין לרחוב, עושים לרחוב. עד כאן לא פליגי, אלא דמר סבר רחובה מעיקרא בינן, ומר סבר רחובה דאשתנה מכי מעיקרא דמי, אבל כולי עלמא בינן קרא כדכתיב. So Gemara said, תנאי דתנן, אין לו אלו בו אין יד, בו אין רגל אוזן ימנית הנותר העולמית. cannot redeem from his tzaraat. תוספות יונדום explain it. רבי אליעזר אומר, נותן על מקומו, put it the place that missing limb, ויוצא. רבי שמעון אומר, נותן על שמאלו ויוצא. So basically what you see here is the disputation between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Eliezer hold that the right side is, or the hand is more than the thumb and the ear, and that's the way the Chazon Ish explains. But the Magen Avraham have a malach here, God forbid someone is missing a hand. So how a person can fulfill the mitzvah of Arba'at Aminim, of the four species, if someone missing a hand. So, for example, the Rokeach discussed with Lekachtem Lachem. Can someone do Lekachtem Lachem with his teeth, or needs to use hand specifically? So he tried to bring a sugya that we're going to study at the very end of the perek. That's the story of Yoav that come to kill his the Avner, and he asked about the Yavama, if they made chalitza or not making chalitza. And he basically asked, based on that, if the Iter can do it. And you read more on that in both in the Chazon Ish and many others.